Just ahead on American Black Journal, Detroit's own Big Shawn makes a huge investment in a West Side Boys and Girls Club. We're going to talk about his contribution and how the facility has been reimagined for youth and adults. Plus, a look at efforts to develop more nonprofit leaders of color. Stay right there. American Black Journal starts now.
Masco Corporation is proud to manufacture innovative and environmentally friendly products for the home. Delta faucets, craft-made in Merillat cabinets, and Behr brand paints have all been designed with you in mind. Masco and its family of companies, serving Michigan communities since 1929.
Support also provided by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, a partner with communities where children come first. The Cynthia and Etzel Ford Fund for Journalism at Detroit Public TV.
The DTE Foundation proudly supports 50 years of American Black Journal in covering African American history, culture, and politics. The DTE Foundation and American Black Journal, partners in presenting African American perspectives about our communities and in our world.
Also brought to you by Ally, Nissan Foundation, and viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to American Black Journal. I'm Stephen Henderson. The Boys and Girls Club in Detroit's Cody-Rouge neighborhood has new learning and entertainment spaces thanks to Big Shawn and other generous donors. The Detroit rapper Shawn Anderson Foundation gave $100,000 for the construction of a production studio at the facility. American Black Journal contributor Marlo Stoudemeyer was there for the big reveal.
Implementing a recording studio here was important because Detroit is such a musical city, soulful city, and there's so many kids that have the talent that just don't have the resources to record. They don't know how. Not only can you record here and there's a studio here, you can learn how to do the lights. There was somebody working the lights while those kids were performing up here. There was a student learning the lights and doing it, and then there was somebody controlling the sound back there. And you can learn all the jobs that surround the music industry as well here. So it's not just recording, but on top of that, I'm sure you heard some of the beautiful voices up here. It was like some future superstars in here, and they may not have any other means of recording, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I put the studio here and paid for it. I feel like it's one of the most bossed up things I could do. And I'm glad I was able to do it. I hope I can build 10 more.
You started thinking about the partnership with the Boys and Girls Club of Southeastern Michigan. Why was it important for you and your foundation to partner, and why is it important for others to follow your lead?
It's a full circle moment when, your neighborhood supports you and holds you high, and then you're in a position to come back and be able to hold it up in your own way, and take it further. So it was just important for me to, link up with the Boys and Girls Club because they're truthfully one of the only people or foundations or, companies, organizations, there you go, that's a good word, that are in the community and that are based in the community and live in the community and is the community, you know what I mean? So that was why it was important for the Shawn Anderson Foundation to link up with the Boys and Girls Club, get the recording studio in here, to, throw a down weekend here, to have fun, to have, a nice little carnival and free food and everything for everybody, free haircuts, free hair braid and stuff. I think it could save somebody's life if they have somewhere to go. I think it could save somebody's life. I think it could change somebody's life.
And I don't want to get too emotional, but as a single parent, I remember just being so scared. I would see boys, the police off the block, police come and drag them out in handcuffs. And
yeah.
So I just want to get kids off the street. just such a good, clean, safe place that you can feel good about putting your kids, having your kids here. It's comforting.
Wow, you can really feel the emotion in that clip. Joining me now is the president and CEO of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Southeastern Michigan, Shawn Wilson. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Stephen.
Yeah, so at the end of that clip where we see the emotion sort of attached to the idea that kids ought to have a safe place to go, hang out, do things that expand their minds and horizons. When I was a kid here in the 70s, that was the Boys and Girls Club. That's where lots and lots of people went. That went away, and really nothing else stepped up into that space. So it's a really big deal that you're trying to reopen that.
Yes, it's been an amazing process, and to your point, the Boys and Girls Club brand has always stood for a safe place, and that's important. But we also want to evolve that brand to being about a safe place, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. And when you look at what Myra said and what Shawn said, Shawn said it can save lives, and Myra said we got to get kids off the street, right? And so, we serve between 13 and 15,000 youth every year, but the truth is we should be serving double, triple those number of kids. And so 8 months ago when I took over as president and CEO, I really came in and said, let's reimagine the Boys and Girls Club experience. And we turned that challenge over to the community. I led over a dozen visioning sessions with 300 stakeholders, including the youth, parents, and the greater community, and said, what does a world-class experience look like? And ultimately, what you see now is what they came up with: self-care room, production studio, innovation lab with a 3D printer. But they also said a place to build businesses for both youth and parents. And so we're really proud that we're the first Boys and Girls Club in the country to offer a co-working space powered by Pony Ride. But ultimately, all of that visioning, the community can have that vision, but you have to have early adopters. And so when you look at Myra and Shawn, they're early adopters. And the thing I love about working with them, I met them when I first moved to Detroit. A mutual friend, Tuolumne Austin from Rock Nation, introduced us. And what I love about working with them is Myra, she gets so excited when you come up with an innovative idea. Like she just, she's pumped about it. She's like, yes, let's do it. And then Shawn, I think he really embraces his position as an influencer and really an ambassador of the city. So when you have that kind of combination, there's some amazing work that can take place. So, them to say, hey, the community said they want a production lab, we'll step up, put up the first 100,000. It's amazing.
So talk about what's different about this space now than what people might be familiar with Boys and Girls Club.
So you went to the Boys and Girls Club.
We don't need to talk about
few
how long
years
ago
ago,
that was,
few years ago. And unfortunately for a lot of Boys and Girls Club, not all of them, but a lot, I know it was the case for Southeastern Michigan, that experience really hadn't changed. So a lot of gym and swim motto, more of a drop-in center where you could play pool and, things of that nature. And, I think what we heard from the community loud and clear is, yes, you do have all these youth coming through on a day-to-day basis. Now do something special with them, do something powerful with them. And so instead of gym and swim, you really have a heavy focus on career pathways, heavy focus on edutainment, right? Caring, connected adults in a safe place. Those are our 4 brand promises, or the 4 promises that we're providing. So now when you walk in just this one club, and we're going to reimagine all 8 of our clubs, but when you walk in this one club, you have co-working space where adults are building their businesses. You have that innovation lab with 3D printers and e-gaming, right? But then you also have the Big Shawn production studio, the self-care room. So now when you look at what that programming looks like, it's not so much of a drop-in center. That's only about 30%, but now 70% is really skill-based. We want our youth to be exposed to all the different careers that go along with that. That's just phase 1, by the way. Phase 2, which will be done by the end of this year, includes a barbershop salon, a community laundromat, a test kitchen that was generously just sponsored by one of our newest early adopters, Don and Mary Kosh. And so now when you really think about that, kids can come, they can learn a trade, they can still have fun, but they can also, it's also a place now where their parents can come and skill up, get vocational training, and really create economic mobility for the entire family. We have to get out of this, one day we'll help our youth become successful. Absolutely, that's a long game. but by embracing their families and focus on economic mobility for their family, we can impact them today.
Yeah, you make that way more possible sooner.
Absolutely.
So you say that you want to expand this to the other clubs in the city. How soon do you think you'll be able to do that?
ASAP. No, you know, it's you know, as you've known me a long time, you know, I like to move quick.
Yes.
So really over the next 2 to 3 years,
Yeah.
we want to make sure all 8 of our clubs are reimagined. That's going to take about $15 million to be able to make that happen. We're off to a really good start with some of our early adopters, but ultimately the longest part of the process is making sure that it's not the president or the staff coming in saying this is what's going to happen in the space, but we got to do that community voice piece, the visioning sessions. So each club will look a little bit different. Absolutely. The 4 promises remain the same, but the facilities and the programs may look a little different.
Talk about the reaction so far at this center. Like you could see in the video, the kids really getting into it. I mean, you know, we have so little in neighborhoods like that left of what used to engage youth. I mean, it really is dramatic, I guess, to make this kind of thing available.
Well, now there's something for every youth, right? So if you're not into sports, you have something. You can come and build drones, right? Fly drones. You know, if you're into esports, you can participate in that. There's, you know, so now what we've done is we really broaden the appeal to a broader group of youth, which I think is powerful. And then, you know, once again, for the parents, I think the parents have a safe place to go too. And that's what I love about it. For $40 a month for adult membership, you basically get access to everything I described during the day. So if we're teaching kids about lighting and podcasting, guess what? We're going to be doing that with adults as well, right? If we're, you know, if you want to e-game, you can e-game, right? And so during the day when the kids aren't there, you have full range of the facility. And then when the youth come, you only have access to the co-working space, basically, right? So we keep the adults and the youth separate to make sure that we keep those safety protocols in place. But as a parent, I know I would love a place to be able to go build my business, know that my kids are having a blast, know that they're learning and growing simultaneously.
All right. Well, congratulations, and we look forward to more of this across the city.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you for having me.
All right, coming up, addressing the racial leadership gap in the nonprofit sector. But first, here's a 1989 Detroit Black Journal interview with Reverend Wendell Anthony about a program to help young black males transition into adulthood.
We recognize that in the mission of the church, it's a part of developing the entire individual. And so what better way to do that than to speak to the needs relative to young black males in Detroit and all over urban communities. So over 10 years ago, we started to connect with our own African experience, and we wanted to do something not in the traditional sense relative to what exactly happens on the continent, but to adapt it in a way that we could bring in our Africanness in conjunction with our Americanness. And so we had a marriage between the two experiences. Gordon Patton, who was one of the young men who was coordinating the program now, came through our program. And so the effects are, to respond to your question, is what you see. He's giving back to the community. Not only that, we're not trying to copy or to emulate anyone. It is not modeled after the Jewish bar mitzvah or whatever kind of cultural enhancements any other ethnic group might have for itself. But it speaks to the African tradition of we as a people. And we decided to model ourselves after the Xhosa. The Xhosa are a group of people that live in southern Africa. And so they have a tradition of bringing young men as well as young ladies into womanhood and young men into manhood. The program for the young girls is called the Intojani program. The program for the boys, of course, is called the Isuthu program. Additionally, we wanted to make the program more comprehensive. When we first started the program, we were more or less participating in the ritual as opposed to the content. We would send boys away to college with a check and with a book. Now we want to send them away to college with not only a check and a book of a black impactor, but with a lot of comprehensive analysis and information concerning themselves, their responsibility, what it really means in terms of their growth and development, in terms of working with themselves, their fellows, women, education, careers, etc. So it's been very beneficial in that regard.
Recent studies show that the share of nonprofit leaders of color has remained at less than 20% for the past several years. As more nonprofit CEOs and executive directors retire, though, there's an opportunity to close that racial leadership gap. I'm joined now by two nonprofit leaders who are working to develop and support other leaders of color. Alondra Bulger is Executive Director of COACT Detroit, and Omari Rush is Executive Director of Culture Source. Welcome to American Black Journal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So tell me what it is that you guys are doing to close this racial gap.
Sure. So COACT Detroit is a hub for nonprofit organizations.
Yeah.
We received initial investment from the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation, and we're launched as an initiative of Techtown, with the idea of creating a more connected and resilient nonprofit community. We do that through three ways. The first is that we have a beautiful 6,500 square foot space in the New Center community in Detroit. Yep. And so there's a lot of opportunity for nonprofits to connect to knowledge, resources, and each other in that space. But we also lift up what's happening and what's working well in our region and nationally. And so part of that includes looking at fellowships across the country that lift up leaders of color and other types of programming. We also try to meet nonprofits and nonprofit leaders where they are, so that includes tailoring our programming to their specific needs.
Yeah.
One way that we're doing that is through the Activate Fund. So we have a $1.5 million fund that supports nonprofit capacity building, but it's based upon research done by a number of our partners. So there is a report called Building a Network that was recently completed. That report does two things. One, it looks at nonprofit leadership and capacity building through a social justice lens. And it also looks at it through the process of strengthening not only the organizations, but also the connectivity of the sector itself. And so through that fund, we are looking at providing programming that includes courageous conversations, right? Particularly not just with leaders of color, but also women of color.
Talk about that number, less than 20%. Leaders of color. That's pretty astonishing, actually, I think, in a city like Detroit. Why is it so bad?
Well, the jobs are tricky jobs,
Yeah.
you know, and they're only getting more complex as the environment is changing. And it reflects a real need for there to be supports. Supports from the board, supports from a board that really understands what the current dynamics are of leading an organization, that's willing to be flexible in an executive's approach. Things don't look like they used to, you know, 30 years ago. And a board has to be ready to kind of get behind a leader and support them in their style and their way of doing things. And so that's one part of it. And another part of it is just some basic training around what it takes to run a nonprofit organization, which at times feels like a for-profit, at times feels like it's filling in basic government services gaps.
Yeah, it is, right?
And those kind of skills are things that get built over a developing professional's kind of academic career as well as their early professional career. And so that number is low because there always isn't the kind of pipeline of training and pipeline of kind of supports. And that number can grow if we start to target more of our kind of resources and efforts toward helping that.
Yeah. Let's talk about the role of Culture Source here.
So yes, Culture Source is a regional coalition of about 150 nonprofit arts and culture organizations. We exist to help organizations thrive and flourish as solid organizations that are relevant to their community, that are sustainable and that just thrive and flourish. We do this mostly through a set of professional development experiences. We do it through a set of kind of demonstration projects where we ourselves will produce events that point toward different kinds of futures for the arts and the way they exist in communities. And we do this through just being solid advocates for the needs and possibilities and opportunities of arts and culture in communities.
Yeah. You know, it strikes me that for a lot of young people, even young people who might imagine themselves as leaders in the private sector or even in government, the idea of being a leader in the nonprofit space might not easily occur to them, and more to the point, it might not occur that you need kind of a different skill set and set of experiences to be able to do that. I mean, part of the challenge here seems just planting that seed in their minds early enough.
Yeah, I think it's twofold, right? There's the need to build a pipeline of talent, right, to show what's possible in the nonprofit sector. I mean, frankly, the nonprofit sector employs a huge number of folks, both locally and nationally. And so I think part of it is even unearthing what the possibilities can be. The opportunities are vast. I mean, you can be an executive director, but you can also, if you're interested in communications, you can do something in that space, you know, and nonprofits lead so much diverse types of work that you really do have quite a few options.
Yeah, yeah.
And the beautiful thing about the field is that we get to, you know, we're all about kind of a public good and a public service at the core of what we do, and we get to talk to people about that and inspire people to dip into their wallets or use their own skills to help us out in this public benefit work. And so, you know, the more that we can be good role models, one of the things that we certainly do is we're very mindful about who we lift up as examples, who we present as experts, because we just want to point to a wide variety of looks of people. You know, we want to people to just be able to see themselves in, you know, people that they see as leaders.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So tell me what we would expect to see and when out of this effort.
Sure. I mean, I think there are two things that are happening right now that I would call out that our partners are leading. The first would be new nonprofit enterprises at work out of Ann Arbor just launched their first cohort of leaders of color. Also, in our space on September 11th, we'll be holding an information session for a program that IFF is kicking off for organizations that are in the community development space for leaders of color, or particularly leaders that are serving communities of color. So when you think about who's closest to the problem, you know, they're also closest to the solution.
Yeah.
And this fall, we're bringing in Koya Leadership Partners, an executive search firm, to do a series, half week of events, 6 events that are focused on talent recruitment, leadership development. They are particularly skilled at reaching beyond the most obvious candidates and helping organizations realize that this is the person that they want, even though that person may not be someone who has represented a traditional leader for that organization. So we'll be doing that. Those events will be open to the public. And we also have a program that we're running in its second year with the Ann Arbor Area Community Foundation that's called Culture Makers, where it's about taking a set of leaders of color and working with them in artistic ways to reimagine what the word culture means, really empowering them around that, and then having what they come up with be a real kind of guiding light for our organization. So, you know, working both sides of the coin is a strategy that we're really excited about.
Yeah. Okay. Well, very important work when you look at the landscape of leadership in this sector here in the city. Congratulations, and thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. That is our program for today. You can go to AmericanBlackJournal.org for more information on our guests and to check out past episodes. And you can always connect with us on Facebook and on Twitter. We'll see you next time.